The National Desk, America's News Now.
Five Americans wrongfully imprisoned in Iran now heading home, but with a steep price tag, the cost of doing business with Tehran.
And guess where it's going to go? It's going to go into terror proxy operations. It's going to go into building their nuclear, their nuclear, not defense system, but offensive system for a nuclear war.
Then after a summer lull, illegal boarding crossings increase again as states deal with the problems from Arizona to New York.
The number of people on the terrorist watch list coming across here is unbelievable, never sustained any other time in this country. And now you've got people from the mayor of New York complaining about what's happened. Every city has become a border city.
Plus, how a cyber attack is causing a shortage of one of your most trusted household cleaners. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David, and right now, 5 Americans once imprisoned in Iran are on their way home. They've arrived to Doha, Qatar, and will soon be headed to the United States. Secretary Antony Blinken saying this today about their release.
It's very good to be able to say that our fellow citizens are free after enduring something that I think it would be difficult for any of us to imagine, that their families will soon have them back among them, and that in this moment, at least, I have something very joyful to report.
They're all part of a prisoner swap between the two countries in which 5 Iranians imprisoned in the U.S. were also set to be released. And as part of the agreement, $6 billion in Iranian funds frozen under U.S. sanctions were unfrozen and transferred to an account in Qatar. Former President Trump, meantime, taking a Truth Social to blast the deal, writing, "I brought 58 hostages home from many different countries, including North Korea, and I never paid anything," and warned once you pay, you always pay, and many more hostages will be taken. Just a few hours later, President Biden announced new sanctions on Iran's former president and its Ministry of Intelligence. On Friday, he announced separate sanctions against 29 Iranian officials and organizations for the death of Mahsa Amini. The 22-year-old died in police custody last year after she was imprisoned for wearing a headscarf improperly. Hunter hits back. The president's son now suing the IRS, accusing agents of trying to embarrass him by disclosing his tax return information to the media. This just days after he was indicted on federal gun charges. Christine Frizzell has more.
At the center of a brand new lawsuit filed by Hunter Biden's legal team is the testimony and subsequent TV interviews of 2 IRS agents turned whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joseph Siegler.
Statements Hunter Biden made in his book completely contradicted what he was deducting as business deductions on his 2018 return.
Both men worked on the IRS team investigating his business deals and alleged Hunter Biden was given special treatment. His security team tipped off the night before agents planned to interview him. Their testimony is believed to have played a role in prosecutor David Weiss being made special counsel and also raised many more questions about Hunter Biden's business deals.
What you're always looking for with a flow of money is how is that flow of money handled? Is it done in a way that's trying to obscure the source of that money?
The lawsuit names the whistleblowers directly, though not as defendants, calling their disclosures an assault on Mr. Biden's rights for the decision by IRS employees and others to disregard their obligations and repeatedly and intentionally publicly disclose and disseminate Mr. Biden's protected tax return information. Hunter Biden's attorney has also pushed back against last week's indictment against him with charges related to lying on an application to purchase a gun back in 2018, charges he calls unconstitutional and politically motivated.
It is the folks like Chairman Comer and the Republican MAGA crazies who have been pressuring this U.S. attorney to do something to vindicate their political position, and guess what? They succeeded.
Should say the timing of this lawsuit is raising some questions since, of course, House Republicans voted to open decided to open an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden last week. Also, Special Counsel Weiss has signaled that he plans to, within the coming weeks, file another indictment against Hunter Biden, this one on possible tax crimes. Amira?
And Christine, what do the attorneys for the whistleblowers say about this?
Yeah, so attorneys for both whistleblowers have responded. They say that their clients have done nothing wrong. They went through the proper channels before giving this public testimony. One of those attorneys called the lawsuit a frivolous smear meant to intimidate future whistleblowers.
Yeah, a judge to decide which side is smearing the other. Christine Frizzau, live in Washington, D.C. for us. As always, thank you. The legality of an Oregon gun control measure is in question. A trial began today over a strict law approved by voters last November. The law mandates gun safety training courses and criminal background checks to buy a gun and bans high-capacity magazines holding more than 10 rounds. A judge temporarily blocked the law from taking effect in December after a lawsuit claimed it violated the Oregon Constitution. Turning now to Pennsylvania, 9 teenage juveniles back in a Berks County detention center after breaking free late last night during a riot. All 9 were apprehended and returned to custody this morning. Of note, Berks County borders Chester County, where Danilo Cavalcante was able to break free from prison and stay on the run for 14 days. Meantime, a suspect detained today in the fatal shooting of an L.A. County Sheriff's deputy. Authorities say Ryan Klinkenbroomer was stopped in his patrol car at a red light over the weekend when he was ambushed, shot in the head, and later found unconscious in his vehicle. Authorities who took a man into custody today described the dramatic arrest.
He barricaded himself for several hours. They deployed chemical agents, and the suspect ultimately surrendered.
Sadly, the 30-year-old deputy had just gotten engaged to be married 4 days before the shooting. The motive and whether the deputy or department was a target, that remains unclear. Developing right now, the search for a former New England Patriots player, Sergio Brown. The ex-NFL player has been reported missing just hours after his mother was found dead. Her body discovered in a creek less than 100 yards from her home in Illinois. On Sunday, authorities said her cause of death was multiple injuries from assault. An investigation is now underway. And take a look at these videos out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. A house demolished after an explosion this afternoon. The local fire department is still investigating at the scene. No word yet on the cause of the blast, but we do know one person died inside that home. And developing now, we're just learning that military crews have found debris and parts linked to a Marine Corps F-35 fighter jet that's been missing. They were found near Indiantown Road and Bartels Crossroads in Williamsburg County, South Carolina. That's according to ABC 15 News. We are going to keep you updated on any of the latest developments just as soon as we get them. A Trump-era Justice Department official charged in the Georgia election indictment, Jeffrey Clark, appeared in court today. The hearing is about his motion to move the case to federal court. Prosecutors say Clark used his authority at the DOJ to help former President Trump try to overturn the 2020 election results. Clark has pleaded not guilty. Tour dates for comedian Russell Brand, they are being postponed because of sexual assault allegations. Today, British police said they'd received an allegation after news outlets reported last week that several women made claims against Brand. Brand denies the allegations and says the relationships were consensual. The end of cash bail. Illinois becomes the first state to abolish the traditional bail system, with the Pretrial Fairness Act officially going into effect. That means detention decisions will no longer involve putting up money in exchange for release, as long as a judge doesn't think a defendant poses danger to the community or is a flight risk. Advocates for the Pretrial Fairness Act say the previous system unfairly punished those who were poor because they couldn't afford to post bail. And Virginia Democratic Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton, she says she is not seeking re-election. Wexton says she's been diagnosed with supranuclear palsy after an initial Parkinson's diagnosis. She won re-election in 2022 after flipping her district from red to blue in 2018. She says she'll be spending time instead now with her husband and children. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is loosening the chamber's informal dress code. Starting today, senators can wear whatever they want. Schumer says he will continue to wear a suit. The new code may come in handy for Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. That's because he often wears a hoodie and dresses very informally around the Capitol. Visitors and other staff will still need to wear business attire. And coming up, with less than 2 weeks to go before the federal government runs out of funding, there may be signs of a stopgap bill. What's in it and who supports it? Then the latest on the growing crisis at the border. Border Patrol agents begin releasing migrants onto U.S. streets. And complaints continue to pour in over a popular birth control device years after safety problems were exposed. What's being done in response? Right after this. With less than 2 full weeks to go before the federal government runs out of funding, there may be signs of a stopgap bill coming from the House. Some members of the Freedom Caucus joined more moderate Republicans for a deal that pairs a 31-day continuing resolution, or CR, with the House GOP-passed border security package, along with an 8% spending cut for non-defense programs. But not all Republicans seem on board, and there are questions if anything that passes in the House could get through the Democrat-controlled Senate. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is urging all of Congress, including his party, to support the bill instead of arguing about what could be better.
If you're not willing to pass appropriation bills and you're not willing to pass a continuing resolution to allow you to pass the rest of appropriation bills, and you don't want an omnibus, I don't quite know what you want. So, I mean, we just have to get together, figure it out, and move forward.
We are in the 4th day of the United Auto Workers strike, and indications are that it will get worse before it gets any better. The union has rejected the automakers' latest offer of a 21% wage increase over the weekend, a 1% increase from where we were in pre-strike offers, but it was swiftly rejected by union president Shawn Fain, who said they were ready to amp up the pressure. Meanwhile, members of the White House are in Detroit in hopes of bridging the divide between the union and automakers. Despite President Joe Biden's pro-union stance, Union President Shawn Fain does not want the administration involved.
The White House has suggested they'd like to be involved here. Give us a sense, if you will, as to what their role might be. Do you think they're going to be key to brokering some sort of agreement?
Not at all. This is our battle.
In Canada, meantime, Ford might have another strike beginning tomorrow. Contracts between the big three automakers and Unifor, Canada's UAW equivalent, expire at 11:59 p.m. tonight. Instead of striking all three, Unifor has targeted Ford specifically for work disruption and is allowing contract extensions for the other two. Unlike in the United States, the union and the companies have not publicly stated their demands and counteroffers. While in California, the Writers Guild of America, the Hollywood studios, are headed back to the negotiating table on Wednesday. The writers went on strike in May. Maybe in a sign that a deal is close, Bill Maher is postponing the new season of Real Time with Bill Maher, saying this. My decision to return to work was made when it seemed nothing was happening and there was no end in sight to the strike. Now that both sides have agreed to go back to the negotiating table, I'm going to delay the return of real time for now and hope that they can finally get this done. Well, as asylum seekers continue to flow into New York City, the city's right to shelter policy is the subject of a court hearing today. It requires homeless people to be given shelter if they ask for it. Some city officials want it to be paused as they ask for more help managing the surge of migrants. Meanwhile, Border Patrol agents, they've begun releasing migrants onto U.S. streets in Arizona and California as some sectors deal with 2,000 apprehensions per day. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joins us with more on the growing crisis.
As the number of migrants attempting to cross the southern border illegally continues to rise, new video emerging showing a train full of migrants cheering as they make their way through Mexico to the southern border. Communities struggling to handle the surge. In Manhattan, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and fellow Democrats heckled by protesters during a press conference on the migrant crisis there.
Is extension of temporary protected status for Venezuelans who are the largest population that are arriving here.
As residents grow frustrated with their local leaders like New York Mayor Eric Adams point fingers at the White House.
We are stating this condition have a real destructive part to it that is going to have a rippling effect throughout our entire city.
Adams demanding federal dollars to deal with what he sees as a federal problem. Sources close to Hillary Clinton telling NBC New York she's siding with Adams, urging Biden to do more. To draw attention to the crisis, Texas Governor Greg Abbott continuing to send migrants to self-proclaimed sanctuary cities such as New York and Chicago. The progressive mayor of Los Angeles fears her city might be the next target.
For here, it has fortunately been manageable. I am fearful that any day planes could start coming.
While migrants have also been bused to Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Denver, New York is the only one with right to shelter laws, meaning the city must care for the migrants who arrive there. Mayor Eric Adams predicts this care will cost New York City $12 billion over the next 3 years. I'm Kayla Gaskins, reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Kayla, thank you. Michigan State has told suspended football coach Mel Tucker that he will be fired for cause and without pay because of those allegations that he sexually harassed a rape survivor. The school had hired an outside attorney to investigate the complaint. Tucker has 7 days to appeal the decision. Despite this recent decision, a hearing is still set for October 5th to see if Tucker violated the school's sexual harassment and exploitation policy. Well, some Clorox products are in short supply, all because of a cyber attack. Clorox said today that it picked up unauthorized activity in its IT systems last month. The company was able to contain the attack, but its production has suffered, they say. It didn't specify which products have been impacted. Clorox expects to start returning to normal operations next week. However, they don't know how long it will take to resume full production. And we do have reporters across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America.
Good moments, there's bad moments too, but then tragedy.
In Maryland, one person is in custody after at least 6 fires were intentionally set in Gaithersburg this weekend at multiple locations. No one was hurt, but several small businesses were significantly damaged. A family who owns the Latin Market expects costs to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Investigators believe the fires are connected, but have not yet released a motive. In Virginia, meantime, allegations are swirling around a gynecologist from Lynchburg. Gynecology, Dr. Louis Dabney. Police are investigating an alleged sexual offense in the same area where the practice is located. They received a report just 2 days ago after a Lynchburg woman posted a complaint about Dabney on Facebook. Since then, dozens have expressed their own concerns about him on social media. Lynchburg Gynecology also posted on Facebook that Dabney has resigned. A Virginia law firm is now looking into misconduct claims from some of his patients.
This is the shocking surveillance video of a brutal assault during a robbery at the Friendly Normandy Market. Leah Johnson can be seen getting hit multiple times and getting kicked to the ground.
Once he started hitting me, I pretty much just went into defense mode, and I didn't really see anything after that.
Surveillance video shows 6 men ransacking the store. Police said all 6 suspects took off in 2 stolen cars, a Kia and Hyundai. Leah was alone when the men robbed the store and assaulted her. She tells me she knew something bad was going to happen.
Coming up, concerns over a popular birth control device continue to grow years after a safety issue was first exposed. We look into what's being done, if anything. We'll be back after this. Safety concerns over a popular birth control device continue to grow 2 years after Spotlight on America first exposed thousands of reports of breakage with the Paragard IUD. National investigative correspondent Angie Moreski has this update as reports of breakage are now on the rise.
Her reaction really freaked me out. I want to say she literally said, uh-oh.
Veronica Worley remembered the moment a nurse attempted to remove her Paragard IUD because it had dislodged.
She said, it's broken. I'm trying to get the arm out.
The arm from her IUD snapped off, and as this sonogram shows, remains in her body more than a year later because she doesn't have the health insurance to pay for surgery to get it out.
If it's like a ticking time bomb, is it going to perforate something?
Like so many women, Veronica chose Paragard because it's a non-hormonal option and long-lasting form of birth control. Approved by the FDA, it can stay in place for up to 10 years.
Did they give you any of the warnings that that arm could break off?
No, not at all. That would have freaked me out to the point of I would have chose something different.
I didn't know that that could happen until right before the visit.
Spotlight on America was first to report on Paragard in 2021. At the time, our analysis of FDA data found nearly 3,200 reports of breakage. Today, that number has nearly doubled to more than 6,000, with more than 4,800 of them deemed serious. Do you think this problem is underreported given your experience?
100%.
Katie Mae Malone is a health officer with the National Women's Health Network.
Definitely need more information, more research, and we need to be listening to women.
To date, Spotlight on America found only one study. A 2022 analysis looked at FDA reports of breakage in all types of IUDs from 1998 to 2022. It found there were nearly double the reports of breakage for Paragard's copper IUD versus other hormonal IUDs. Do you think it's time for the FDA to take a closer look at this?
I do, absolutely. We have that data within the database. It just needs to be examined more closely and considered more seriously.
Spotlight on America asked the FDA if they're planning to launch studies of Paragard to investigate breakage. The agency told us it continues to monitor the safety of Paragard to determine if changes to the product's label or other communications are warranted, but calls it a safe and effective option for women, adding its drug label contains all necessary information. Paragard's current warning label does acknowledge the possibility of breakage, saying Paragard can break and breakage can make removal difficult. What is your message to the FDA?
We need a response. We need to act immediately.
For Veronica, living with a foreign object inside her body is a constant worry. She's speaking publicly to help ensure other women are made aware of the risk.
Any of the doctors that are even suggesting this form of birth control, they need to be telling the patients that there is risk associated with it breaking that could happen to them too.
More than 2,000 women are suing Paragard over the IUD breakage. The first trials are expected to start in the fall of 2024. We did try to contact the attorneys for Paragard, but they did not respond to our request for an interview or comment. For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
Well, coming up, some Americans could be in for a spectacular sky show tonight, where you'll best be able to spot the northern lights. Stay with us. The best colleges list came out today after U.S. News and World Report made the biggest changes to its ranking system in 4 decades in response to criticism. The new methodology focuses more on success after graduation and enrollment of students from all backgrounds. Schools like UT San Antonio got a big boost. Topping the chart for national universities are Princeton, MIT, and Harvard. People in the northern part of the country could get to see the northern lights or aurora borealis tonight. Scientists expect this dazzling display to appear late tonight or early tomorrow morning before dawn. The further north you are, the more likely you'll be able to see them, and your best chance of viewing them is in a dark park. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. We invite you to join us again tonight. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for watching. I'm Amira David. Have a great night.